originator of Pet Cemetery. Arthur Conan Doyle, author of Sherlock Holmes. Michael McDowell, creator of Beetlejuice. George Romero, director of Night of the Living Dead. Now, these four masters of everlasting horror bring to the screen 4 tales of overwhelming terror.
I warned them, but they wouldn't listen.
Tales of diabolical fate.
You promised you'd never tell!
Tales of ghastly revenge.
Grow, O light. Rise, O light. Come forth, O light. Open his eyes.
Tales of ruthless evil.
That cat has killed 3 people in this household.
I don't believe this.
Kill it, bury it, and bring me its tail.
Tales from the dark side.
Well, that just about takes care of that, doesn't it?
Come, live the nightmare of your choice. Tales from the dark side. The movie.
Based off of the anthology horror series of the 1980s, Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, kind of is pretty much like a Creepshow movie, kind of. I mean, there was even a story in here, The Cat from Hell, which is actually supposed to be in Creepshow 2, but they dropped that because of production budget concerns. But, I mean, it looks like a movie like Creepshow, kind of. It is kind of a horror, comedy-esque type of movie. You have these 3 stories, all written by George Romero and Michael McDowell, based off of the works of Stephen King and Arthur Conan Doyle. And, like I said, I haven't seen this movie before, or these stories before, but it doesn't look too bad. But it does look very similar to Creepshow. I think that was maybe why this movie didn't have too much of a lasting impact after its initial release, because everyone saw it and it was just like, well, this is just like Creepshow. It's basically kind of the same concept as Creepshow, and even somewhat of the Twilight Zone movie from '83, but, I mean, I don't know, it could be decent, but I haven't heard a lot of people really talk about this one too much, but even, it does have a cult following, because it did get a Scream Factory Blu-ray release, and usually that means something, but yeah, like I said, I haven't seen this movie, so I can't really comment on them too much, but it's got a lot of Creepshow vibes to it, to me at least, so that's Tales from the Dark Side, the movie. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie.
Mix up at the hospital. Detective Bert Simpson thinks he's got 2 weeks to live.
What's the difference? If it happens, it happens.
But if he can go in the line of duty,
All right.
his family will be set for life.
You'll never hurt nobody.
But getting killed isn't as easy as it looks. Short Time.
You missed me again, you idiot.
Rated PG-13.
So imagine combining the concept of Last Holiday to an action buddy cop movie. I mean, that's pretty much the best way to describe this movie. And this movie, I haven't heard too many good things about this movie, but I like the premise of this movie. I like this idea that Dabney Coleman plays this police officer who thinks he has so much little time to live that he decides to kill himself to make sure that he gets his family insurance before his retirement. But, like I said, I haven't heard too many good things about this movie. This movie doesn't have too much of a following since its release. But I am curious about it. I've heard some mixed things about it, but it's a movie that I feel like maybe took a good concept, but didn't go 100% with it. Like, they only took some of the good ideas that they would have had with it, and maybe it could have worked on that level, but I don't think it's a movie that really took all those ideas, this great idea that they had, and went all the way with it. That's what I'm getting from this trailer, at least, and from the reviews that I've heard about it. But I don't know, maybe one day I'll definitely check it out. It is something that has piqued my interest a little bit. Short Time, so that's that one. Let's go ahead and move on to the next movie.
It's going to be real nice, everybody together again.
It's gonna be living hell, and you know it.
I know it.
The Turnover Children have come home.
I'd like you to meet my new fiance, Harmony Grabowski.
Howdy.
Howdy, hippie.
Well, Daddy's still alive, or what? Can you remember where you put your will?
I think he hid it.
Look everywhere, Orville. It could be anywhere. Orville!
Did you or did you not spend the night with my fiance, Clarence Hopkins?
Good. Go ahead, Evelita. Answer her.
Shut up, Orville!
Stop, Arnie. We can't do this. Somebody's gonna catch us.
I think I'm falling in love with you.
Harmony, I got a fat, mean husband and a kid in reform school.
I know. Evelita ain't got on nothing but her brassiere. I don't need anything that has a face.
It's not what I've been told.
I hope I don't have to go get my garden hose.
Beau Bridges, Beverly D'Angelo, Tess Harper, Judge Reinhold,
I got a bad case of Del Munches.
Amy Wright, and Keith Carradine. Daddy's dying. Who's got the will?
I mean, it's got a pretty good cast to it, but I never even heard anything about this movie. I mean, I know most of the actors in this movie: Beau Bridges, Beverly D'Angelo, Judge Reinhold, Tess Harper, Keith Carradine. But as far as the movie itself goes, I haven't heard too many things about it. I haven't heard if it's that good or not. You can't really look for any reviews for it on Rotten Tomatoes, but it could be decent. I mean, it could be a decent movie. I don't know if it's even based off of a play or anything, or it's just an original script, but first thoughts on it, could be interesting, but it's not something that I'm going to rush out to see, quite honestly. So, quick thoughts on Daddy's Dying, Who's Got the Will. Let's go ahead and move on to the next movie. I'm actually going to give you the title this time around. It's Last Exit to Brooklyn.
Want to know anything?
This film holds you in its grip.
Coming out. This thing's gonna get out of hand here. We're gonna need some backup.
On the mean streets of Brooklyn, there's a strike.
You want to get there now? Is that what you want? No, we want to work.
In a neighborhood with 3 strikes against it.
You think she's just fat? But she is fat. Fat. And she's a virgin.
No more she.
Oh, dear. Bella.
Boys, got something on your minds?
Light.
Is it worth $200 to you to teach them a lesson they'll never forget?
It's the last stop.
I had a couple days left before I ship out. Maybe we can spend them together.
What do you mean, spend them together?
It's the last hope.
I got me, an officer in Manhattan.
This is based off of a 1964 bestseller by Hubert Selby Jr., and it follows the difficult life of unionized workers, prostitutes, and drag queens working in Brooklyn. It includes stuff like drugs, crime, and violence. Like I said, I haven't seen this movie. It's got a good cast to it. Stephen Legg, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Burt Young, Jerry Orbach, Stephen Baldwin, Sam Rockwell's in this, Ricky Lake. So, and I've heard some good things about it. So, and it could be good. It's a movie that it could be good, but it's a movie that doesn't really click with me right away. Like, I don't know what the main premise is, and what the purpose of going on here with this movie so far, judging from this first trailer. Some interesting notes about this. Ralph Bakshi actually wanted to do a live-action film version of this, but he couldn't get the rights to him. And I think he also wanted Robert De Niro to play the role of Harry in this movie, but that never happened. But other than that, though, this movie has some potential. It's not one, like I said, I'm going to rush out to see, but I don't know. I'll give it a shot maybe when I get a chance to see it. So let's go ahead and go on to the next movie, and that is Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down. This movie is notable for a number of reasons. Pedro Almodovar directed this movie. It also had a young Antonio Banderas and also starred Victoria April. But most importantly, I should say, this movie was one of the last movies to have an X rating before the MPAA officially decided to go with an NC-17 rating. What happened was Miramax wanted the movie to get a proper rating and wanted to get but they slapped an X rating on it. And while Miramax lost the case in court, it actually led to numerous filmmakers complaining about the X rating, and then the MPAA, just about a couple months after this movie's release, decided to change the X rating from that to an NC-17 rating. And the first movie to do that was Henry and June, but we'll talk more about that when we get to September of '90. But notable piece of history there. This was the last movie to get an X rating before the MPAA decided on a new NC-17 rating. So there's that interesting fact right there. As far as the movie itself goes, it looks like what you'd expect from Pedro Almodovar. It looks like a movie that fits right into his style. And like I said, I haven't seen it, but it's Pedro Almodovar. Most of his movies have been pretty solid, so I expect this one to be just as good, especially since this is one of his earliest works. So that's my quick trailer thoughts on Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down. On to the next movie, and that is Happy Together.
Who's going to college to broaden his horizons. Alexandria is an actress who's majoring in fantasies and wild living. She lives in a world of her own. He's just been assigned to share the room.
I can't live with you.
Why not? Is there something wrong with me?
Yes, your sex.
Imagine me and you, I do.
Get me out of here with this.
This tray is your brain, and this is what she's doing to you, Chris. She's picking away at your rational side.
I think about you day and night. It's only right to think about the girl you love.
I never acted with you!
Forget it, because I am through.
And hold you tight, so happy together.
Which basically just looks like the pilot to a failed TV series. I mean, that's pretty much what this movie looks like. There's nothing about this movie that really says this deserves to be seen on a big screen. I mean, it does look like a movie that you might see it on TV or be the pilot for a new series or something like that. I mean, it could be good. Patrick Dempsey, Helen Slater are two young actors working together in this. You also have Dan Snyder from Head of the Class. You also have Brad Pitt in an early role here. But yeah, just for that trailer alone, it definitely feels more like a TV pilot than an actual movie. I mean, who knows? The movie might actually be good, but all I'm seeing is TV pilot quality here, at least in my opinion. So, let's go ahead and move on to the last movie, and that is The Feud.
Най-новата комедия от репертуара на Тандем Video.
But all that changed the day The Feud began at Bud Bullard's Hardware.
You ought to get rid of your butts before you enter an establishment.
Жителите на един град не харесват особено жителите на друг и обратното.
Things started getting out of hand.
Чудесата, които...
I actually had a really hard time finding a clip for this movie. You can tell that clip right there is from I believe it was like a Spanish version or a French version of the trailer. You could hear the actual trailer in English underneath the dubbed audio that they had there. I don't know which language it is off the top of my head, but what happens is a guy enters another guy's hardware shop with a cigarette lit and ignores the no smoking store policy, and this turns into a feud between the two families. But not all the members of the family hate each other. And again, just like with Happy Together, that doesn't really sound like a concept that's worthy of a feature-length film, unless you're going to take it to the nth level. Like, you're going to take it to something like a Neighbors type of level or something like that. But I don't think this movie is going to do any of that. I don't think it's a movie that does that in particular. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this one, so I can't really comment on it, can't really say anything about it in particular. I'll just say the same thing I said with Happy Together. I think it just looks like a TV pilot blown up for the big screen. Unless someone tells me that's actually a decent movie, but I don't know if anybody's going to.
In 1998, 6 million violent incidents took place in American high schools, including 29,927 teacher fatalities. The public school system has been reduced to a battlefield. The Board of Education's just found a solution. The perfect solution.
You're next, Mr. Cope.
For the class of 1999.
What are you?
The class of 1999.
These androids were supposed to educate the students.
Battle droids. Battle droids. To graduate is to survive.
The same director that did Class of 1984, Mark L. Lester, actually directed this movie. He also did movies like Firestarter, the original Firestarter, Commando. He also did Armed and Dangerous with Richard I think it's not John Candy. I was about to say Richard Pryor. But, yeah, like I said, I haven't seen this movie. I haven't seen the original Class of 1984. But, this doesn't look too bad. I mean, really, it is just kind of like a cool concept. Kind of reminds me of an early version of The Faculty, that movie that Robert Rodriguez made in the 90s with the teachers from outer space who were actually the teachers who were aliens from outer space in disguise. Kind of gave me a feeling of that movie. So, I mean, this could potentially be some fun. It doesn't really look like anything that's outside of what I'd usually expect to see from a sci-fi action thriller like this. So, I don't know. It could be something to watch one day, but like I said, I can't really go into too much detail on this particular film because I haven't seen it, so let's go ahead and move on to the next movie.
Puerto Rico, USA.
First up, taxis. We've been waiting here an hour already. Hey, it's a holiday.
Puerto Rico's 26th anniversary as a U.S. Commonwealth.
At a moment of pride.
This is going to be a great day, my friends.
On a day of celebration.
We're not going to hurt you, don't worry.
An act of independence.
The police have beaten back a group of terrorists trying to blow up the communications towers at Cerro Maravilla.
Cops and bodies, and it's better than it sounds.
Like 6 o'clock.
This is Kate Melendez.
They opened fire, instructed them to drop their weapons.
Dead men were identified.
I want to know why was my son so confused.
The whole side of his face. It was all busted open. You know, the police are calling him a revolutionary.
It's old news. Nobody cares. Forget about it.
If you're right about what happened on the mountain, then the truth is bound to come out. I'm not backing up the story, Howard.
True or no?
How long was it between the two volley of shots?
Who gave the order to fire?
I kept watching to see if anyone was following. I didn't see anybody.
You're not going to tell her where you're working for me.
This isn't about the news, Howard. Mommy.
Right here, baby.
A labyrinth of lies.
Everything I ever did was out of patriotism.
This is in Chile. This is in Cuba. We're Americans.
You used me.
Amy Irving.
Cops shouldn't get away with murder just because they're cops.
Who gave the order? I don't know. What are you looking at?
Andy Garcia.
You're trying to entrap me.
Well, that was your job, son.
Lou Diamond Phillips.
You got me in a lot of trouble, Kate.
And Robert Duvall.
You're off the air. That's it.
You're firing me?
How much will one woman dare to face the threat
I'm really gonna have to do something about you, Kate.
that lies behind the truth?
It's in America's interests.
People know about it.
Of a show of force.
Well, on the one hand, there's certainly some stuff in here that could be considered very topical, especially considering today's news and how that's played out. But on the other hand, though, this looks like a type of movie that it feels like another one of those movies that was blown up for television, like it was originally intended to be something to be seen as the NBC movie of the week, but because they have a cast that includes Amy Irving, Andy Garcia, Lou Diamond Phillips, and Robert Duvall, I guess they thought it was good enough for the big screen, but I don't know. I haven't heard too many good things about this one, so I can't really comment on it, but I mean, like I said, it looks like a movie that's gonna be primarily a movie that looks like something made for television, blown up for the big screen. Unless it really has more of a critical reception that I'm seeing on here, because I couldn't find any decent reviews for this one, and nothing about the movie really stuck out for me. So, judging from that trailer, I mean. So, yeah, that's a show of force, and now on to the next movie.
Had been foretold. Its fate had been forewarned. He did
not know that something so sweet could be so evil. Now, the fate of mankind hangs in the balance as Kadeem Hardison, TV's Dwayne Wayne.
This honey I met the other night is bad. Bad. Super bad.
And Bill Nunn from Do the Right Thing get busy in the first contemporary horror thriller of its kind. James Bond III's Death by Temptation. She's every man's dream and your worst nightmare.
She leaves with men, and you never see them again.
I wanna miss it, and nobody can cramp my style. So if you can't get down, stay at the trip for a while. I don't mean to be trailing, no
Death by Temptation, a new movie from Troma.
Now, this definitely looks like a movie I could get behind. A movie that knows what it is. It's a Troma movie, so it's obviously gonna be a little bit over the top, but it looks like a legitimately good horror movie. I mean, this is directed by James Bond III, but it has a cast that includes Kadeem Hardison, Bill Nunn, Samuel L. Jackson, and I mean, it looks like it could be pretty good. Like usually I don't usually. The last couple of horror movies I've looked at on here look kind of generic. They look kind of forced. They don't really look like they have too much to them. But this movie looks like it at least has some kind of fun aspects to it that could make it enjoyable, even in a cultish, campy way, which it's Troma Entertainment, so I kind of expect that. But this is the first movie of the five that we have here that actually looks pretty promising for me. So I might check it out one day. I might check it out for Halloween. So yeah, Death by Temptation looks like a lot of fun. So on to the next movie.
In 1981, a group of friends were having the best time of their lives, a time they thought would never end. And then one day, their lives changed forever.
Have you seen the paper?
No, I was just sitting down.
Have you got it?
Rare cancer seen in 41 homosexuals.
The cause of the outbreak is unknown, and there is yet no evidence of contagion.
It's the greatest challenge they've ever had to face.
You've been given your name as a contact for John Deacon. Your friend has pneumonia. He has a high fever.
How high?
105. Then they don't even tell him what they've told me and David.
I'm so sorry.
It's just not fair. Not fair.
And they're facing it the only way they know how, with laughter.
You look at yourself in the mirror and you say, I love my ears, I love my nose, I love myself.
Well, I love my toes. And I love my nose.
Right. With courage.
I'm an actor, and I have AIDS.
They've changed their mind about the part for some reason. They're going to use somebody else. I'm sorry.
But most of all, with each other.
The most remarkable thing I ever saw anybody do was the way he took care of Sean, which wasn't easy for David. David taught me that life is only what you put into it.
Never again would their lives be so simple. Never before had their friendships mattered so much. Winner of the Audience Award for Outstanding Motion Picture at the 1990 United States Film Festival. Longtime Companion. A film about our times, for our times.
Interestingly enough, this is only the fourth movie to tackle the AIDS virus. We've had two movies in '85 on both NBC and ABC, which were the first two movies to tackle the AIDS issue, and then we had Party Glances in '86, which was the first theatrical release, but it was also the feature film debut for Steve Buscemi. And then we have this movie here, Longtime Companion, and it looks like they're tackling the issue on a very serious note, and they're also doing it with a good mix of dramatic moments and comedic moments. These actors seem reasonably realistic. Like, you wouldn't believe that, like, they're not the, like, they're thankfully not the typical stereotype gay character, but it looks like they're doing a pretty good job of tackling this issue in a way that it doesn't feel like it's manipulative, it doesn't feel like it's forced, it doesn't feel like it's overpowering what the intention of the movie is. it looks like it's a legitimately decently made movie, and it might be one I might be interested in checking out. But got a pretty decent cast to it: Bruce Davison, Dermot Mulroney, Patrick Cassidy, Mary Louise Parker, Campbell Scott. Great cast involved here. This director is Norman Renee, and I'm not too sure what else he did. Actually, this was his first movie, because he would later go on and do Prelude to a Kiss, starring Alec Baldwin and Meg Ryan. But I mean, yeah, this movie looks like it's a well-made movie. It looks like a movie that could be very good, and it might be something I might definitely check out one day. It looks like it could be a very well-made film. It looks like it's a very well-made film. That's my quick thoughts on that one. Longtime companion. So, on to the last movie, and that is Pathfinder. Not the Carl Urban Pathfinder, but a different Pathfinder. Going back to the Carl Urban Pathfinder, apparently that's a remake of this movie, but loosely based, which basically means they probably took the name, they probably took the same kind of concepts from the original movie and put it into this movie, and they just made their own movie. Because this movie, I wouldn't have even compared it to the original Pathfinder until the new Pathfinder, until I read about this on here. But I mean, it looks like it could be a pretty decent movie. It's an Oscar nominee for Best Foreign Film. It was released originally in '87, and I don't know if Box Office Mojo misplaced the release date here or what, but it says it was released in '89, but on the Box Office Mojo page, it came out this particular weekend in theaters. So I don't know what's going on there, but I mean, the movie looks kind of decent. I mean, most of that trailer you saw was just action going on, so I don't know about the story. I don't know about how good the characters could be. But I mean, it could be good. It could be decent, and it can't be any worse than what the 2007 movie was like. So yeah, that's Pathfinder.
And Goldie Hawn team up to star in Bird on a Wire from Badham Cohen, directed by John Badham, the director of War Games, Short Circuit, and Stakeout.
It happened one night when, after 15 years...
Rick, is that you?
Yes, they Rick, let me in, will you?
How do I know it's you?
Coffee, open the damn door.
Mary Ann Graves discovered an old flame.
Oh, what the hell are you doing here?
Me? What the hell are you doing here?
Shot in the butt.
Had never died.
You get lost in your plane, you're reported missing, presumed dead. I attend your memorial service and I cry the tears of a grieving widow. Until one day, I pull into a gas station and you're alive with people chasing you. And you ask me to look at your butt?
Now...
Oh, God! Give it to me!
You did it.
Do I get to know what's going on or do I just get killed for old time's sake?
they've got a lot of catching up to do.
Since when did you start wearing underpants?
But they better do it quick, before the bad guys catch up with them.
Oh, you gotta break my damn legs!
I haven't had a girlfriend in 5 years.
Really?
Yeah, Mr. Wiggly's been on bread and water for 5 long years.
What's eating you? Calm down. I just took a shower with a cockroach from hell. He's in there doing his hair right now.
Mel Gibson, Goldie Hawn.
I think we lost him.
Where are we?
Not there anymore.
Huh?
We're in the railway tunnel.
Oh, where the hell are we?
Bird on a Wire.
John Badham is, of course, the director whose work you should be very familiar with from his work from such noticeable films as Saturday Night Fever, War Games, Blue Thunder, Short Circuit, Stakeout. He would later do stuff like The Hard Way, Point of No Return, Nick of Time. The first movie he did was Bing Along Traveling All-Stars and Motor Kings. But this was a pretty big movie at the time. Of course, you have Mel Gibson, who was one of the biggest action stars in the world at the time. Goldie Hawn, I mean, she was still a draw at the box office back then, and she was still a noticeable entertainer at the time, so it kind of made sense to combine both of these actors together into this movie, and we get kind of a similar, kind of a Smokey and the Bandit-esque type of action comedy. It's a comedy that I think does work well enough because the chemistry between both Gibson and Goldie Hawn works so well. But, yeah, it's a very formulaic script. It's a script that you can kind of tell what's going to happen, the twists and turns as it happens, the elements of comedy, the elements of action that they have here. They're done very well here. There's nothing too special about this movie, and I think it did just enough to warrant enough of an enjoyable factor to it to make it a pretty good action comedy. I like Mel Gibson and Goldie Hawn working off each other. I think the action sequences are pretty good. I think it's a pretty good movie. It's an action film that doesn't ask a whole lot, but it gives you a lot of entertainment value. One notable thing about this movie is that this was actually the last movie to use the original Universal logo that had been used for the studio for over 20 years, because the next week, Back to the Future Part 3 comes out, and that introduces the newest logo that would be there for 8 years, the 75th anniversary logo, but so that's an interesting note there, and we'll delve into Back to the Future 3 next week, because that comes out next week, so. But, yeah. Bird on a Wire, good movie, doesn't really ask a whole lot, but it gives you just enough to be very entertaining, a very good movie, very fun action comedy. If you haven't seen it, I'd say definitely check it out, especially if you like watching the old school Mel Gibson action movies like this. You definitely get your money's worth, so that's Bird on a Wire. Let's go ahead and move on to the second of the big new releases, and that is Robin Williams in the comedy Cadillac Man.
Benz. Benson Benz. 300E Benz.
Joey O'Brien loves to sell cars.
Benz. Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz. Right now you're probably thinking, hey, this is not the car for me. Over the touch of one button. Max Headroom.
I'm talking emotional support. Emotional? Can you afford that?
Yeah. Want to make it happen, huh? This emotional thing you want?
And he loves
Why?
too many women.
Yeah.
You know when you want something? You gotta go out there. You gotta take it like a shark.
Well, that's how I should take you from underneath.
Oh.
Why'd I ever leave you, Tina?
We were athlete. Do you remember why?
Now, he has a little explaining to do.
I want to know how many times you did that. I want to know where, and I want to know how.
Her too, and my wife, and his wife? How the hell you got time to make a living?
Joey, what's he talking to you, Joey? This true?
Oh, come on, Lisa.
Lisa? I knew you was doing a Lisa, Joey.
What's that make it for? How many girls you got? Yeah, Lisa's my daughter.
You got a daughter, Joey. You probably got a wife, too.
No, wife. No wife, no, ex-wife.
He's a busy boy, you're Joey. You're very busy boy.
Madonna.
What?
Tina, Chuck, and all that.
Lila. L-I-L-A. Lila.
Listen, there's an explanation for this. There really is.
Oh. Robin Williams,
Tim Robbins.
You got a lot of girls. It's easy for you. It ain't easy.
Cadillac Man.
Another movie that I think works well because of the people they've got involved here rather than the actual script. I mean, there was a pretty good idea here. There are some very funny moments in this movie, but it is a very formulaic script. It is a script that you can kind of tell where everything's going to happen. But what really puts it over to another level is the cast. I think Robin Williams is terrific in this movie. You also have Tim Robbins. You also have Pam Reed, Annabelle Sciorra, Fran Drescher, Judith Hoag, who would play April O'Neil in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Lauren Tom, who would go on to become a prolific voice actor on shows like King of the Hill, Futurama, and Codename Kids Next Door. Just a great cast in this movie that works really well. There are good funny moments in here. Maybe not a whole lot, but there are definitely a lot of good moments in this movie that I think really puts this up to a bit of a higher pedestal than what it would have been if they had gotten other actors besides the people that they got in this movie. Also of note here, something I found out that was very interesting, I found this out after Robin Williams passed away in 2014, is that I mentioned that Judith Hoag in this movie, who plays April O'Neil in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, apparently she got all the information and all the little things that she needed to know about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and to play this character April O'Neil through Robin Williams. Robin Williams apparently was a big fan of the Ninja Turtles, and he actually helped her out because they were filming this movie, I believe, before they were shooting Ninja Turtles, or might have been the other way around. But I thought that was interesting of note here, and it's just like, just another reason why Robin Williams was such a part of people's childhood, because he loved stuff like this. He liked the Legend of Zelda, which is why I think he named his daughter Zelda after the Legend of Zelda games. So, just another one of the many reasons why Robin Williams was such an important part of people's childhoods and all that. Because this is the guy guy who was not only a great comedic actor, a great actor overall, just a great entertainer overall, but he also had a hand in people's childhood favorites. I mean, nothing more you can say about Robin Williams that hasn't already been said already. As far as Cadillac Man goes, it's a good movie. Not one of his better ones, but still a very enjoyable film. I liked it a lot.
From out of the west, in a cloud of dust, a thunder of hooves, and a mighty...
Great Scott. Oh, this is heavy.
Indians! This summer, Marty and Doc go back one more time for their greatest adventure of all. Doc's living in the past.
Don't cry, Lieutenant!
But he's about to be history.
What kind of a future do you call that? I'm going back to 1885 and I'm bringing you home.
It's the last roundup.
Come on, run!
It's the final showdown.
Hey, lighten up, jerk!
Where Marty makes a name for himself.
What's your name, dude? Eastwood. Clint Eastwood. What kind of stupid name is that?
Doc meets his mate.
You saved my life.
I'm a brown, I just see this.
And Tannen meets his match.
I'll hunt you and shoot you down like a duck.
It's dog, Buford. Shoot him down like a dog.
Michael J. Fox.
Where did you learn to shoot like that?
7-Eleven.
Christopher Lloyd.
There's a fella that can't hold his liquor.
And Mary Steenburgen.
I never ever met a man like you before.
Gentlemen, excuse me, but my friend and I have to catch a train.
This summer, Steven Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis invite you.
Come on, Marty!
To the Rough Rider. Rip roaring, rootin' tootin', straight shooting.
It isn't hold up! It's a science experiment!
Rousing conclusion of Back to the Future.
Let the festivities begin!
Back to the Future, Part 3.
So Back to the Future Part 3, of course, comes 6 months after Back to the Future Part 2, which we already looked at on a previous episode. I'll put the card for that on the quarter here. And this was one of the first back-to-back sequels that we've had since King Kong and Son of Kong, which was shot back-to-back in the 1930s. I'm pretty sure there's some other ones, too, that I can't remember right now. But Actually, I just thought of one right now. The Breaking movies, I think, were shot back-to-back in '84. But Back to the Future Part 3, this was one of the bigger ones that they did back-to-back, because you didn't usually see a big blockbuster have back-to-back sequels coming out like this, like Back to the Future Part 2 and 3 did. So it was kind of a big deal to have both of these movies coming out within 6 months ahead of each other. And Back to the Future Part 2, while it didn't do as well as the first movie did, it did pretty well at the box office. It didn't get the same critical reception that the first movie did, which is interesting because the third movie comes out. It's actually the lowest grossing of the 3 films, and yet it gets a better critical reception than the second Back to the Future movie. Of course, I've talked about how I've been a fan of this franchise for the longest time, and so this third movie, in terms of this third movie, honestly, the third movie of the Back to the Future Part 3, I would say, is the worst of the series, and I put worst in quotation marks because neither one of these movies are terrible, but in terms of the one that I think is the lesser of the 3 films, this is probably it. And I remember when I first watched this movie originally, I liked it, but I didn't want to watch it over and over again. But it's a movie that has indeed grown on me over the last couple of years. Would I say it's better than Back to the Future Part 2? Probably not, but it does wrap up the story very well. They do a good job of tying up a lot of the loose ends from the last 2 movies, and showing some maturity between Marty and Doc, because Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd have these character arcs going on throughout the course of this movie. Of course, Doc falls in love with Clara, played by Mary Steenburgen, and in Back to the Future Part 2, there was a line where he was finding out about the great mystery of the universe, women. And then with Marty's story, we get a callback to one of the main parts of Back to the Future Part 2, where it's revealed that future Marty's life took a downward spiral when he gets into a Rolls-Royce accident. And that plays a big part here in this movie, especially in the second and third acts, because there's a couple of scenes in this movie where Marty and Doc... Well, there's one scene in particular where Marty and Doc... Marty has just been challenged by Buford to a duel, and everyone's expecting Marty to lose that and end up getting killed, to the point where there's a gravestone that in the beginning of the movie was supposed to be Doc's gravestone, because he's supposed to get shot by Buford. But then when this duel happens, the Doc's name gets erased, and it's now Marty's name that he has in the past, Clint Eastwood. And there's a part there where Marty is going, "I'm going back to the future with you. You heard what that son of a bitch said to me." And Doc is just like, "Marty, you can't let that guy get to you. That's why you get in that Rolls-Royce accident." And then there's this moment where Marty's just like, "What?" And he's just like, because we've heard about this in the second movie, and it comes into more detail in this particular movie. And Marty just straight up tells him, "What about my future?" And Doc is just like, "I can't tell you. It'll make it worse." And he is like, "What is wrong with my future?" And Doc again is just like, "Marty, we all gotta do things that we don't want to do." And he's gotta be like, "You gotta do what you gotta do." Something around the lines like that. And of course, what happens at the end of the movie is that we actually see the incident with the Rolls Royce, except this time around, Marty doesn't take the challenge from Needles, which I actually like that they actually made Needles a part of that movie, because it was because of him he'd be in that accident. Needles again played by Flea, and I love the build up to that. I love how they make it seem like he's going to do the race. He's going to go with it. And then as soon as the light turns green, you see Needles and his gang go forward, and Marty and Jennifer go backwards, and Jennifer's just like, "Did you do that on purpose?" And Marty's like, "Yeah, you think I'm stupid enough to race that asshole?" And then you see, of course, that if he had gone for it, he would have hit the Rolls Royce, and then, of course, his life would have been completely different. Which I actually like that they made those callbacks. And I think that's one of the things that makes me like this movie a lot more than I really think I did before when I saw it the first time around. But I mean, you still get a lot of the same tropes in this movie. It still follows the same basic format as the other two movies. Marty's going through the town the first time around, seeing how Hill Valley looks in 1885. He's still got to have the first interaction with Buford in the bar, and I liked that they did some stuff that was different. They made it. They didn't give Marty an easy win this time around. He actually was in danger at first of almost being hung over by the new clock tower they had at the time. And I do like that he matured as a character. Honestly, he found a way to outsmart Buford. He found a way to grow up a little bit, and I like that. I like the way that they handled this story. I also like the relationship between Lloyd and Steenburgen's characters, Doc and Clara. They actually have a good chemistry together, and of course, Mary Steenburgen's been a great actress over the years, but it's interesting to see Christopher Lloyd as Doc Brown as seems somewhat like a romantic icon in this movie, because he really plays this romance with Steenburgen very well. Like, you really believe these two have a great connection together, and then when you see they have to go through the third act breakup, it's heartbreaking for him. Like, he goes into a stupor by, funnily enough, one thing of alcohol. It's just like, it's one of the funniest things ever. I like that he didn't really, like, he didn't even. What's funny is that he only had one thing of alcohol before he passed out. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. And like I said, the callbacks in this movie are very well done. There's a callback to a movie that the alternate Biff is watching in Back to the Future Part 2 that actually plays a part in the conclusion of the movie, but in the final battle between Marty and Buford. The trade scene is very well done. Like, it still holds up to this very day, even with the practical effects here. It still holds up really well. Like, I'm really impressed with how well that holds up, especially when the train goes off the ravine. I mean, you keep forgetting that that's a prop being filmed on a small train prop, and the way that the camera films it like it's an actual real thing. It's actually pretty impressive how they did that then, and how it still holds up now. I think the best thing about this particular movie is the way the movie ends, how they wrap everything up. They show the DeLorean getting destroyed, which is, of course, a sad moment, and it works very well with Marty going once the DeLorean gets destroyed by the train. He's just looking up to the sky and just like, well, Doc, it's destroyed, just like you always wanted. It's just like, yeah, it's a gut-wrenching moment, like, because like that's the symbol of this franchise getting completely destroyed. And that's basically just saying that at that point, it's just like, yeah, we're not getting another one of these movies because that thing's destroyed. And then of course the way they wrap everything up, they bring back most of the original cast from the first movie for this conclusion, except of course for Crispin Glover. I think it's I can't remember the name of the actor who replaces him. Give me one sec. Jeffrey Reisman as George McFly, Marty's dad, who was in part 2. He was upside down, so you couldn't see him, and now in this movie he's right side up. And then they have the moment at the end where Marty and Jennifer are going through the rubble. They find the picture of the new clock tower in 1885, and then Marty and then Doc comes back with the steam powered train. They wrap up that story, and he has this great speech to Marty about making your own future. And the train has essentially become the new DeLorean. And then the movie ends, and it's just like, it's a perfect way to end the series that really, like, it really does a good job of wrapping up the series the adventure that we've just gone on. And of course, we had the Back to the Future animated series that came out a year afterwards, which was a decent show. It wasn't anything too spectacular, but it does a decent job of continuing the story in a way that it doesn't affect the overall enjoyment of the trilogy itself. But I'm glad they haven't done any other sequels or reboots of this, because from what I've read, Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, I think Steven Spielberg, had a contract at the time of the making of these movies where they said that you could never remake these remake Back to the Future or Jaws without their permission, and I'm glad that they haven't been able to do. These movies haven't been. What's the best way to describe it? I'm glad that these movies haven't been subjected to being remade, rebooted, or having these younger actors coming in here and trying to do this all over again. Because Back to the Future, the series has been a one-of-a-kind thing. It's a series that has worked well enough as it is. It has worked well enough to stand up on its own and still hold up even to this very day. Like, anytime these movies are on TV, I have to watch it because I just love these movies so much. I will always get an enjoyment factor out of them every single time. They're just movies that I have to watch every single time they're on. I just have to watch them whenever I can find them. They're just that great. They're just that great of a movie for me to. These are just those great of movies for me to just watch over and over again and never get tired of them whatsoever. And like I said, even though Back to the Future Part 3 is definitely the weaker of the series, the weakest film of the series, it's still a very well-made movie. It's a good conclusion to the series. There's still a lot of those moments that make these movies so special, that make them so watchable. The chemistry between these characters works so well. The comedy still works really well. The action set pieces are well done. It knows when to take the heartfelt moments and dramatic moments and work them very well. And the music is still very good. The cinematography is still very well done. The visuals still hold up. It's a great series, man. It's still one of my favorite trilogies of all time. Still one of my favorite series of all time, film series of all time, honestly. And this movie does a pretty good job of wrapping it all up. Like, it does a good job of wrapping the story up. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's just a great trilogy, and the hope is that this series will continue to be just a trilogy. Nobody will be forced to remake these movies in the future, because I don't really think you could do this series again in a new way. Like, it's really hard to do. Maybe you can do stuff with these characters like they've been doing with commercials and shorts and all that, but yeah, like, this is a great series. I mean, Back to the Future Part 3, as much as it's the lesser of the three films, it's still an enjoyable film that wraps everything up. It's just a great movie, and I can't recommend it enough if you haven't already seen it already. So, that's my thoughts on Back to the Future Part 3.